dark.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Jason Lore here with Jason Lore Photography and Films, and welcome back to another episode of the JL Photography and Films podcast series. So, hope you guys are in a movie mood today because in this episode, we are going to be talking about the new Batman movie, The Batman, starring Robert Pattinson, that just came out this year in 2022. So, I finally saw this movie. And a lot of people don't know this, but I'm a big Batman fan. I also read a lot of comic books too, but Batman by far is one of my favorite comic book heroes. Um, and so this is a movie that I've been wanting to see, for quite a while too. I know it's only been out for like maybe like a month and a half, but it just feels like it shouldn't have taken me this long to finally go watch a Batman movie, whether it be a Batman cartoon movie or Batman versus Superman movie. It's like if it's Batman, it's like I'm totally there. But anyways, let's jump straight on to the Batman, starring Robert Pattinson. So, real quick on the story. So, in this story, Batman is on the case of trying to catch the Riddler, who is going around town kidnapping people and also leaving clues and riddles for Batman to solve in order to save not just the people that he's kidnapped, but also the city itself. So um, that's pretty much the story. Now, with that being said, clues and riddles, you're going to be seeing a lot of detective skills from Batman. And this is something that I'm happy that they're finally showcasing off of the Batman, is because not a lot of people know this, but, Batman's actually a detective. In fact, like, if you look at when his first appearance was, it was back in like 1939. He was in the Detective Comics. I want to say it was like issue number 27, and he was basically solving mysteries. And you don't see much of that in the past Batman films. I mean, there's bits and pieces of it, but this is the most you're gonna be seeing him doing a lot of detective work. It's like he'll go into like a crime scene and he'll start scanning the rooms for clues that could lead to who the killer is or lead to the killer, which is was it the Riddler? So speaking of Riddler, so this was an interesting choice of his main villain for this film because a lot of people when they think about Batman, they're thinking, oh wait a second, it's Batman against the Joker, because the Joker is such an iconic villain for the Batman. But if you read the comic books, you know that he's got a huge rogue gallery of like all these iconic villains. You got Two Face, you got a Penguin, and a whole bunch of other lists that could go on and on and on of like super villains. So yeah, so why the Riddler? I think this was a good choice because the Riddler, his story in the comic books is that he likes to leave clues and riddles for the Batman to solve. And why giving away his clues or his whereabouts? Well, it's because he believes he's the most intellectual person and that nobody can ever best him. And so, here comes Batman, who is pretty much like his equal, or if not better, but he wants to prove that he's the best. And so that's why he creates all these riddles that he believes that Batman would never be able to solve. But, of course, being Batman and being that detective, he's able to solve all of it. So I thought that's the reason why he was a good choice to be the main villain for the Batman in this movie. So the interesting thing too about the Riddler, and like I said about the Batman, he's like a detective, and in this day and age, there's detectives out there who's solving mysteries, looking for clues and what have you. Now, the Riddler. So I read in an article somewhere that by Matt Reeves, the director of the film, was that the Riddler in this story is kind of based off of the Zodiac killer. If not based, like referencing, at least referencing the Zodiac killer. Because if you guys know the Zodiac killer, he was like this serial killer who actually left like clues, if you will, or even riddles. But he also left like codes, like deciphering codes or what have you. And that's what the Riddler does in this film too. Is like he leaves actually codes as well. And if you guys look at the trailer or even the poster, like you see like all these like weird symbolisms, like they're codes basically. And so I thought that was very clever, and it adds realism to the Riddler. I mean, he still has like that same theme, which is, leaving riddles and clues and codes, something that only a code breaker, a detective can only solve. And that's where Batman really, goes all out on his detective skills, to try and solve all that. So that's what's very interesting about the Riddler, as like the main villain, but also the fact that he was based off of a real life serial killer who left clues or codes and all that. So I thought that was brilliantly done. So now this is really starting to feel like a detective film and a detective drama, but only except this is based off of based off of characters from a comic book. So no, that I thought that was interesting. Now, as far as like characters go too, we also have other characters. We got Catwoman, Alfred, James Gordon, who's it? The Penguin and Carmine Falcone. So, all these characters. I think this is a good amount of characters to where it balances out to where, okay, we're gonna have time to get to know a little more about each of the characters versus like what movies have done in the past that are based off of like video games, comic books, where they try to get so much characters into the film just for the sake of like getting fans to come and watch it. But then, the issue with that is now there's too many characters to follow, and you don't get to, showcase a lot of those characters because you don't have the time. But this was really a good balance and also a good way of like introducing you to who these characters are, whether you're a fan of the comic book series or if you're new to the comic book series. Now, another interesting thing too, I have to point out is the character Penguin, played by Colin Farrell. It's like, dude, the first time I saw him in the film, I seriously thought he was Robert De Niro. The way they made him look and dress, he looked like this Italian mobster. He even kind of talks like an Italian mobster, which kind of adds more realism too. Whereas in the past, you would see the Penguin looking like a penguin, the pointy nose and all that, the walk and all, and the talking and all that. It's like, yeah, he's basically the Penguin straight out of the comic book, but this is like the Penguin, straight out of like real life, like a real mobster. So I like that new look and that new feel to the Penguin as well. It just adds more realism to it. So as far as like all the other characters goes, pretty much they all played their roles in Batman's character. You got Alfred and James Gordon like keeping him in check and keeping him on his feet to not only be a crime fighter but also to be Bruce Wayne. And that's another thing too, is like you know with Bruce Wayne, you have Alfred, who's there to support him and to remind him of who he is, after experiencing such trauma as a child. And then you have James Gordon, who's there to remind Batman that, as much as these criminals deserve, to be, punished, there's a line that he should never cross. And that's one of the things that Batman does really well, but at the same time, when old wounds are open, it's like that's where that line may eventually get crossed. But again, with James Gordon there, he keeps them at bay. And then of course Catwoman, she's basically the middle ground of right and wrong with Batman, but also at the same time, she's there to remind Batman of like just you know what he really should be doing. And I thought that was like interesting take on the Catwoman too. And so, all right, yeah, as far as character goes, that's a good balance, and I think everybody played the roles perfectly. So I hope to see them again in the second movie, and I do believe there's gonna be a second movie, and so hopefully the actors that take on the roles in this film will surely again take on the roles again in the second film. But anyways, that's pretty much my thoughts on the film. If anything, I would have to say is that I didn't pretty much like about the film was just that it's a really long film. It's gonna be 3 hours long, so brace yourselves. I mean, don't let that discourage you from not watching the film. Um, I mean, it's definitely a film worth watching. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like, you got a good storyline, you got good characters, and you got great actors that really brings these characters to life. And you got some good detective scenes and some good action scenes too. So it's definitely gonna be worth watching. And the only thing I ask of you guys is just what happened to Batman in the past movies. Leave him in the past movies. I think like if people start comparing, like, okay, well, that's not what happened in this Batman movie. It's like, well, I mean, that's the thing is like each Batman movie is different. So it's just in the end, it's gonna really be up to you on like which version you like the most. But I will tell you this: I do enjoy the Tim Burton Batman movie, both the Batman and the Batman Returns, the Christopher Nolan Batman series, and definitely for sure, Matt Reeves' Batman, or in this case, Robert Pattinson's Batman. They definitely again did a good job with this version of Batman, and I absolutely enjoyed it, and I think a lot of you guys will enjoy it too. So definitely give it a watch. Again, it's on HBO Max if you guys have it, or you can rent it or buy it if you want to own it for your collection. So, anyways, so that's a wrap for the Batman for now until the sequel. But otherwise, yeah, thank you again for joining me on this podcast episode. And if you guys have any questions more on the Batman film, definitely leave them in the comments below too. And if you guys already seen the Batman movie, let me know what you guys think. Did Robert Pattinson nailed it, or did they do a good job with this version of Batman and all the characters in there? So love to hear from you guys. And also, if you guys want to check out more of my work, you can find them on my social media network as well. And if you guys haven't done so either, definitely click on that subscribe button on my YouTube channel. So that way you guys can get more podcast series as well as other projects and events that I'll be involved in. So until next time, this is Jason Lore with Jason Lore Photography and Films, bringing you art, stories, and entertainment.